The Seattle Seahawks had their football fest yesterday afternoon. What is going on, everybody? Good morning. We have made it to another Sunday, and we have made it through another Seattle Seahawk football fest. Yesterday afternoon, the Seahawks had their football fest at Lumen Field. There were a lot of people in attendance. A couple of people who comment on my videos went and talked a little bit about their experience on the videos I posted yesterday, so that was pretty cool, and we learned stuff. Got to learn a pretty good amount of stuff yesterday, just from observing and watching and paying attention to what the people who were there had to say. So last night, I made that video talking about the quick impressions from the Football Fest, but I want to go a little bit deeper in this video. I want to try to get a little more granular. So we're going to take a look at an assortment of takes from yesterday's action at Lumen Field. Now, I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again. It doesn't feel like this football fest was as structured as our usual one. Usually, they play an actual game that is very well defined as a game. You have like a game clock, you have drives, you have possessions, you have things that happen in a normal game. Based on what I've seen, the emphasis seemed to be much lighter on that in this particular football fest. There was some structure, of course, but there seemed to be less focus on simulating an actual game. So I'm going to do what I can. Shout out to the handful of reporters who were able to get detailed notes out about this game. For the most part, it was kind of scattered, and it kind of felt more like another training camp session for a lot of people, which was not the case the last 2 years, I remember. But we're going to get as granular as we can. I hope you like the video. Thank you for watching. Please like this video. If you haven't already, click the thumbs up button down below. Helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want daily Seahawks content. Click the bell for notifications. Consider becoming a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help out the channel. Okay, so there were a few articles that came out after Football Fest yesterday. We got this one from John Boyle here on Seahawks.com. You had Seattle Times. I think this was, who was this? Condota. Yeah, he wrote this one here. And then you also had this wonderful article from Mookie over at Field Goals. And I'm going to be focusing on this one in particular because Mookie does a great job giving a quick but thorough rundown on what went down. So taking a look at this article, he kind of splits things up into 3 parts: offense, defense, and special teams. No cell phone use is permitted during the practice, so you have to take notes on like a piece of paper or just commit them to memory, which is probably part of the reason why some of the coverage felt a little bit thin, but they did the best they can. So let's start with the offense. Let's go through some of these bullet points that he lays down here. No Geno Smith, so we got to see a lot of Howell and Walker, and the results were mixed. Howell, a lot of scrambling. And I want to be very clear. That's an indictment on the way the offensive line played more than it is an indictment on Sam Howell. But at the same time, Geno Smith probably would be able to recognize what was going on and get the ball out of his hands quicker than Howell was doing, because that's just what happens when you build experience in this league. Geno Smith did an excellent job last year of getting the ball out of his hands quickly in the face of a really bad offensive line. So, of course, things would have been different if we had our quarterback in this game. But the lesson to take away from that, I would say, Howell running around and trying to extend plays, break the pocket, trying to get away from trouble. First of all, it just goes to show that Howell does still need some work. There is still some potential there, but he does have some stuff he's got to work on. Last year, he got sacked a ridiculous number of times for a guy playing behind an offensive line that wasn't even that bad. And also, the offensive line is not there yet. The offensive line isn't where we need it to be quite yet, which shouldn't really surprise anybody, but it's still not good. It's still not something you want to hear. And as for the PJ Walker side of things, there were a couple of botched snaps. There were a couple of plays where he just couldn't get the ball cleanly. And that was the main takeaway from 11 on 11. But there was some positive stuff from both quarterbacks in the one-on-ones as well. So overall, I think that our backup and our third string quarterbacks are what we thought they were. Howell has potential. Howell can do some stuff. He did make some nice plays in the one-on-ones, but he's got some work to do. And PJ Walker is a guy who may or may not even be in the league this year. He may never be on an active roster. So you get what you get with him. You get accuracy issues, you get bad decisions, but you do get fun athleticism. And he's somebody who's going to be a pain in the butt for defenses to deal with because he does have an NFL arm and he does have mobility and he does have the ability to extend the play. So, yeah, the quarterbacks, they are who we thought they were, basically. I talked about the DK Metcalf highlight yesterday. That was still considered to be one of the best days. There was a one-handed grab that DK made where he couldn't get his second foot down, and Rayshawn did actually have good coverage on the play. But Metcalf continues to have a really good training camp. The running game was really bad. They barely got anything going at all. The only highlight in terms of a run game, according to Mookie, was Halani. He had a couple of nice showcases of power, and he made a nice third down grab. And he actually did a little bit more than McIntosh. Not that either guy gets a lot of opportunity, but Halani looks like he's going to be the fourth running back, which is what I wanted and what I'm excited for. There was some attention being drawn to a rotation on the offensive line. Oluwatimi and Harris were both getting opportunities to play with the first team. That there are a couple different things to process there. First, if Oluwatimi is being swapped in and out of the first team lineup, that tells me they're not too happy with what he's doing, because I assume that Oluwatimi went into camp as the odds-on favorite to start, and Harris was the odds-on favorite to be the backup, and they must not be too thrilled with what Oluwatimi's doing. So that's concerning, and that's definitely going to spark up the Connor Williams conversations again. I will say that Nick Harris does have a little bit of positive experience in the NFL, but there are some severe limitations on him just as a player. So if he's the guy that wins the job over Oluwatimi or is in competition with him like this, that's concerning. And it also means that Christian Haynes, even though there's been a lot of positive feedback about him, he's still not considered the starter, because the starting guards today were consistently Tomlinson and Bradford. And I'm not dead set against that, but it does show that Haynes still has a ways to go. And it seems like he's going the right way. Seems like he's making progress. But as somebody who thought Haynes would be a day one starter one way or the other, it is taking a little bit longer than we thought. And that could be a reflection of the coaches more than anything. It's hard to know. There are going to be some coaches out there that will always have a heavy favoritism for veterans. But if Haynes isn't a day one starter, that is going to be a little bit of a surprise for me. I talked about the Jake Bobo stuff yesterday as well, but he had another... Excuse me. Wow. You don't want to do that when you don't have when you have a bad neck. Wow. Yikes. Yeah, Bobo had another really good highlight play. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. There was an interesting angle offered about the receiver room. So, according to field goals here, Cody White is basically impressing more than any of the other backup receiver options. And it's kind of crowded back there. Chenault seems like he's got a spot locked up because of his special teams value. But Mookie Alexander in this article, and this has been expressed elsewhere as well, Cody White has actually been kind of highlighted a little bit here. And that continued yesterday. And that's in a room with guys like Eskridge, who I still haven't really heard anything good about yet. Hayden Hatton, Derek Young. It's going to be tough for that last spot. If Chenault has that fifth spot, there's one spot left for like a bunch of different guys. And we're all talking about all these other guys. Maybe Cody White's the guy who sneaks in there. We'll probably know more during the preseason, but that did catch my attention. There was also a nice highlight by Jack Westover. I think he had actually it was a touchdown grab over DJ James, and there was a lot of stuff with tight ends lining up either in the slot or out wide in the 11-on-11 part of the Football Fest. So that's where you see the necessary versatility that the Seahawks are going to be leaning on going into the season with their tight ends. So that was basically the stuff that Mookie noted from the offense. Great work from him. Great stuff there. He's got some defense stuff here as well. And the defense stuff might be more interesting because the defense played much better than the offense. A couple guys he calls out positively. Mafe, Leonard Williams, Mike Morris. That's a good one. That's a really nice one. Nwosu, he continues to build on his really, really impressive camp. That's some pretty exciting stuff, admittedly, right? Now, the defense won mostly because the offense didn't have their quarterback. And also, if you want to be pedantic, they don't have the right tackle yet either. But it does seem like there's a new sheriff in town with this defense, especially up on the line. Byron Murphy was praised heavily from what we saw. He beat a double team to get pressure on Sam Howell. He drove Jalen Sundle back on one rep on the one-on-ones. So Byron Murphy's doing everything right to this point and looks really good. Jerome Baker didn't practice, but we did see some stuff from Tyrell Dodson and John Radigan. Tyrese Knight did a little bit as well. There wasn't anything super stand out there, but not having Jerome Baker is obviously a killer. Once again, the cornerbacks continue to look pretty good. Like I said yesterday, DJ James had the pick. Woolen almost had a pick. Witherspoon had some really nice coverage. So the cornerbacks continue to impress. That's just building on continued impressive reps from earlier in training camp, of course. DJ James got targeted a lot in this game, and he gave up a lot, but he also did a lot of positive things. Like if you look at this write-up from Alexander here, he gave up a DPI on a deep shot to Bobo, but he also had some had an Eskridge tackle on a screen pass for no gain. And he had the interception, like I said earlier. So DJ James actually looks like he's maybe a little ahead of Pritchett on the progress report. So far, so good there. And again, I don't think we're going to need very much from either guy, but it's good to know they might be ready. Marquise Blair, I already called attention to the interception that he had. And there was the scuffle that he sparked. So Blair actually had a pretty eventful day. He's trying to leave a mark on this team so that when they have to make a decision here about who to keep, he's actually in the conversation there. Still more praise for Kayvon Wallace. Looks like he is firmly the third safety. Looks like he's actually earned himself some meaningful playing time when the season starts. And that was the rundown of the defense from Mookie. And then I want to go over this special team stuff real quick, which I found to be really interesting. We ran through a bunch of different kick returners. Shaynalt, Young, Winston, Eskridge, D. Williams, and Trey Brown. Now, some of those guys won't make the team, but you can clearly see that they're trying to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks with returning kicks. And there was no sense that anybody was more likely to get it than anybody else. So I still don't know what's going to happen there, but I think this is an important decision that we really need to get right. We need to find the right kick returner. Punt returner, kind of the same deal. JSN did return one punt, but the main guys they gave a chance to was D. Williams, Eskridge, and Aesop. Of those guys, I will say the only guy who I think has a real chance of making the roster is Eskridge, but I don't think he has a great chance either. So we may need to find somebody else on this team that can return punts. And of course, Michael Dixon continues to do his work as a punter. I mentioned that yesterday, but he had a great day. Jason Myers made a field goal, so not much to say there. So special teams looks good where we know we have good stuff, but we still need to figure out who these return guys are. So that's field goals. They did a great job. I thought they did some really good coverage overall. I'll pick up a couple other things that were said about yesterday, but that was a basic rundown of the main highlights. Those were the main things that I think deserve some focus. But let's take a look at a few other things. So Brady Henderson, this is kind of a big picture comment that he makes here, but he does point out that Charles Cross continues to have a really impressive training camp, and it doesn't sound like he's backing off of that even after yesterday, where the offensive line did seem to get beat up a little bit. I think Field Goals actually had a tweet about that where Maffei, Williams, and Murphy all were kind of winning their battles against the starting offensive line, but he does think that Charles Cross is looking really good. So, I mean, hey, the Niners do it, right? The Niners don't have a very good offensive line, but they have an elite left tackle, and he kind of is the tide that raises all buoys. So I guess it's possible, right? But Cross, and he also draws attention to Murphy, which I've seen from other places as well. He splits this double team here on this play that I already talked about a little bit. Another player who stood out according to Brady Henderson here, Artie Burns, couple of nice pass breakups. And I don't know if there's room for him on this team, but there should be room for Artie Burns in the NFL. I'll say that much. He's a good enough player to where he belongs in the NFL. And if he doesn't find room here, I hope he finds it somewhere else. I think he deserves it. When Mike McDonald was asked about the offensive line a little bit, he did say that they don't think that they've figured it out yet. They don't think that they've found their final five yet. I don't know if he's just talking about Lucas. And by the way, there was one thing said the other day about how Lucas is expected to be cleared to play by the regular season. So take that for what it's worth. As of right now, there is optimism with the Seahawks that Lucas will be back for the start of the regular season. But I don't know if that's what he's talking about. He could be talking about Oluwatimi, who apparently hasn't looked that good. He could be talking about Bradford, who I think is probably not going to be... I don't think he's going to ascend to some elite level of play this year, and he could definitely lose his starting job to Haynes. So I feel like this is a comment where he acknowledges the offensive line is not there yet. So when I look at something like this, I think he's not that impressed with what he sees up front, and that's why we're looking at Connor Williams, and that's why we're hoping Lucas gets back. Greg Bell has his own wrap-up on the Football Fest as well here, by the way, on the News Tribune. Forgot to highlight that earlier in the video. Sorry about that, but he did his own write-up. And one final note from Field Goals here on the DJ Walker stuff. He talks more about how he gave up a lot, but also did a lot good. The screen stop on Eskridge in particular. He allowed the touchdown to Westover. He got targeted more than anybody else, which is certainly interesting because he is a guy I don't expect a ton from as a rookie, but you never know how things shake out. And that's really all I got. So I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. That was my detailed rundown of yesterday's Football Fest. See you guys later. Go Hawks.